Hello, everyone, and welcome to this special session presented by Canisius ATS. My name is Sam Hill, also known as the Career Change Guru, and we have a very special guest, Killer Mike. Killer Mike is with us today, guys. How you doing, Mike?
How y'all doing out there, man?
We're doing okay. We're doing all right. So where you calling in from today?
I'm calling in from my dining room in my house. I'm in Atlanta. I live in Atlanta, and I've been away in LA for the last few months recording. So it's good to be home.
All right, good, good. And so, everyone is so excited about us having this conversation today. And if you don't mind, if you could just really just kick us off by telling us really how you came up, how you're doing what you're doing, and then we go from there.
I came up in an enclave in a Collier Heights, Adamsville Collier Heights community in Atlanta, Georgia. The Collier Heights was started in 1948 by Black people, for Black people. People such as Jasmine Guy lived there. I've lived there. Tip lived in close proximity to the mayor, current mayor of Atlanta. Such notable business people as Herman Russell have lived there, former police major Baugh. So I grew up in a great mixed economy, all Black neighborhood. I went to great schools, Collier Heights, Frederick Douglass, later went to Morehouse after a year left to pursue music. Probably only decision I really regret was doing that because I got a record deal the same year I would have graduated. But I'm a product of my grandparents' upbringing, who were both from the deeply rural South. They were about taking care of yourself first, taking care of your family, your direct community, and the larger community. So in living my wildest dream and singing and dancing for a living and being a rapper is what I've wanted to be since I was 9. All the motivation, all the empathy, all the love and compassion that's been poured into me by notable people, from my grandparents to my parents, from teachers as early as kindergarten to as late as my art teacher and still my mentor today, Mr. Murray. All these people and a principal who happened to love the hell out of us, like Joe Clark on Lean on Me, whose name was Sam Hill also. Because of these people, I'm a product of this city. And what I have been, besides a rapper, is a businessman in my community, and activist and advocate and organizer. And each year, my birthday's coming up Tuesday, 4/20. Each year, I'm perpetually, I've grown into something besides just what I wanted to be. I feel like God gave me my wildest dreams and allowing me to be an MC for a living. And then he said, well, this is a to-do list of things you're going to do and help people as you go on this protracted journey called life, So
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. So when you think about just the journey, I mean, do you put yourself in uncomfortable situations so that you could grow, or does it just fall in your lap? Or
no,
really
growth
strategic around it?
Yeah, growth usually comes from discomfort of something. You as an artist, you get bored with the world. So your mind creates beautiful things, whether that's taking photographs or painting or sculpture. For me, rapping, the regular world can be rather mundane if you have an artistic mind. And I'm speaking from an artistic Michael at this point. So, when you tell your father at 19, hey, I think I'm gonna leave college because I want to be an artist, and he says to you, son, they call it starving artist for a reason. You take that as a challenge. I didn't take it as, oh, my dad doesn't believe in me. It was just like, all right, I'm gonna show you, old guy. I'm gonna do this rap thing, Years later, the same father comes to you after an article in which you've been a community leader, because along the road to becoming a rapper, you work for 501c3s, you've been a community organizer, you've been a youth organizer, trained other youth to organize. So I stayed open to every serendipitous thing that could happen. Every piece of fate or chance that fell in my lap, I'd step up to the challenge. And what I found is, once I became what I wanted to be and accepted the role of leadership in times where I was needed, my father sent me an article. He said, I wanted you to know that it's not that I didn't believe that you could be a rapper. It's just that the man, Michael Render, who the world now knows, with the plot, plan, strategize, organize, and mobilize, this is who I've always seen my son as. And that was such my dad's just a working class blue collar guy who could have went further, had the talent, skill, but his father died when he was 10. So my dad ended up being a policeman for an amount of years, then a fireman, and later working with selling in with the Atlanta Gas and Light Company. But my father was a handsome man, could talk slick. I'm sure could have been one of the first rappers, right? But with that said, wow, he was raised, charged with taking care of a mother and raising siblings. So, I'm an extension of the potential that my father could have been. I am an extension of my mother, who was an artist by trade. You know what I mean? What she was. So I have met every challenge looking for opportunity. There's an old wives' tale that says, there's a kid who's just an eternal optimist, and his dad says, I got to temper him some, and just loads up his Christmas tree room with just tons of manure. And the kid gets left in there, and he comes out, and the dad just sees the kid covered in manure just all over his pajamas. He said, what are you doing? He's expecting to see a defeated kid, like, man, Christmas was really crappy. And the kid said, with all this laying around here, there got to be a pony,
Wow.
So that's me. I'm eternally looking for the pony. You know what I mean? So, even if life dumps a lot of BS on you, dry it out, make fertilizer, and grow some grass,
Yeah, no, that's great. That reminds me of something my father said. He said, if you dig holes for a living, don't be mad if you come home and your lawn is tore up.
Yeah.
So that's good. Talk to us, if you don't mind. So, this is for our students, right? And so high school students, if you don't mind, teach a little bit about your shirt. If you could talk about the
Yes.
plot, plan, strategize, organize, mobilize.
So plot, plan, strategize, organize, and mobilize is what I learned when I was your age. My grandmother had me at her hip from going to city council members meetings, neighborhood unit organization meetings. She just kept me involved. So it wasn't like I just woke up one day like, hey, I want to be an organizer. But when your grandparents are involved, my grandfather was probably more of a libertarian. He didn't want government in his life at all. He didn't even think you should have to pay for a fishing license. He said, God gave you an appetite and a brain to make a fishing hook. You shouldn't have to ask a white man's permission to fish. He was really about that. But my grandmother was about using the process of government to work in the favor of the people, because you gave them your tax dollars and you gave them your vote. So plot, plan, strategize, organize, and mobilize is what I happened into at about 14 years old. There was a inter-school violence wave going on in Atlanta, Douglas versus Mays, Washington, Carver, and kids were starting to get hurt because weapons were starting to come into play. So older kids, one of whose was former city council person Kwanzaa Hall. He went to Mays. He went to my rival high school. He got with Tony Caldwell, who went to my school, and some other older boys, and they started an organization to put us younger boys at a table together when we had differences, and we would start to hash out our differences. And then we say, well, since we can have built friendships out of these rivalries, let's go see what greater good we can do in the community. Right. That's when I first learned about organizing on my own, aside from my grandmother. Later, I met a woman named Alice Johnson out of North Chicago. And the male organizer, who was a teacher at Mays High School, was Mr. Edward Johnson. No relation to Alice, but he was the first person that said, you're a leader. Like, you're an absolute leader. You should be leading this organization. So within a year and a half, I was national spokesman of BTA. BTA led me to meet a woman named Alice Johnson, who was a white Catholic woman from North Chicago. God bless her soul, rest in peace. She was one of my favorite mentors and friends, and I miss her dearly. She taught me actual grassroots organizing in an organized way. Her and James Orange. James Orange was represented in the movie Selma by the brother Omar, who played him, who wore the glasses. James Orange was a huge black man. I'm 6'3", I'm just under 6'4". He's about 6'5", 6'6", large brother, white beard. And he was an absolute committed person to nonviolence. So much so he wouldn't even call me Killer Michael. He just called me. He called me leader, and he taught me how to organize. So first you plot something out. You're sitting at home. There's something that can be solved at school. You think you have a way of solving it. You plot it out. You say, okay, this is what I think. Then you start to plan. Planning is putting your plot down on paper, getting with other people, right? And I'll say, what do you think of this plan? What do you think? All right. So we're going to have a regular garbage can in the cafeteria. We're going to have a garbage can for paper, a garbage can for aluminum. We're going to take the regular garbage can, and we're going to put that in the dumpster at the end of the day. Well, the janitors will, but the paper and the aluminum, we're going to start a fund for our class, and we're going to sell that at the recycler. So that's your plot. Then someone else will come along and say, hey, we don't even have to take it to the recycler because none of us have a truck. We have a company that will come up on school grounds and they will pick it up for us. And we say, okay, so this is what we're going to do. So now you're planning, because not only have you plotted out it's a good idea, now you have the ability to plan with other people, and then you strategize. And strategize and say, okay, what is our strategy for making this happen? Because the officials may say in the school, well, we're just going to throw it all in the trash. We don't have time to worry about it. But you're saying, no, this is better for the environment. This is a way of us creating some economic stuff for for our class in which we'll get to do some stuff for ourselves. So we want it to be done that way. You strategize to come up with a presentation plan, and then you organize. You organize the other students. So if it's a core about 10 or 15, you guys, then you go around and you say, okay, y'all 5 talk to this group, y'all 5 talk to that group, y'all 5 talk to that group. You travel around and you organize the students so that it isn't just the 15 people telling the principals, hey, we want to do this recycling program. It is now a body of students who are organized to say, this is what we are going to do. This is what we want to do it. How are we going to do it? And you mobilize the moment that you guys figure out a way to do it by working with staff. You mobilize to say, every kid in school, these are the dates we're going to do it. And you mobilize your plan. So you plot it out by thinking about it. You plan it out by writing it out and bouncing your plan off other people. You strategize by getting with other people who help you develop a real strategy to make that plot and that plan be. Then you organize the people around that, and organizing is educating too. So as you're organizing them, you have to educate them. This is why we're doing the recycling program. It can make us $1,000 that can contribute to our last party of the year. We can do this. After you organize the people, then you mobilize that plan and the movement, and you repeat process for anything you'd like to do again. Now, it doesn't always work. You don't always win, but the process you learn. So even if you have to refine and do it again, you would have learned more out of that process.
Yeah, thank you for that. And that's
this
a
ain't
very
old
simple.
person telling you this, guys. This is what I've been doing since I've been 15 years old. So I'm telling you, you don't have to wait to do the stuff on my t-shirt. You don't even have to buy this t-shirt to do it. All you have to do is simply do this. If you do this more times than not, even if you don't get what you want, you'll get a greater understanding of process and how to get what you want in the future.
Yeah, no, thank you. And that's a great framework for all of us to actually follow while whether in our careers or as students. So thank you. So let me ask you this. Did you follow that framework as you had dreams or as you got involved with a bank that I believe you are launching or going into different phases?
Well, yeah, it's a banking platform. If you guys are using Zelle or Chime and things like that, it's similar, but better. And better because it specifically deals with African Americans, with Latinx, and with working class white folks, to be honest with you. You have an opportunity now to bank on your phone. When I was young, we had to go to the bank and bank, checkbook, bank, learn how to bank. You guys have a phone. 65% of all banking is done on this phone. Greenwood will allow you to say your uncle who gives you $100 for Christmas. You take that $100, you invest it. You put it in your bank account, like a real bank account right there on your phone. Gives you an opportunity to grow it. If you're a young person who's now going out of high school, or in high school with your own first apartment, you have a job, say your rent is due Wednesday, but you don't get paid to Friday, Greenwood fronts you what you need for Wednesday. You just pay them back when the money comes. Greenwood also donates money directly to the United Negro College Fund, directly to organizations that are going to help young people that are matriculating up in terms of education. It's also partnering with people who are providing some financial literacy out there. So the quicker you learn how to use money as young people, the more effective you're going to be at making your life a very good thing. And they don't need a lot of money to learn to use money. You just need to learn how to use the money you have, how little or much you have. And I ask you guys to go to Greenwood Bank, sign up, whatever people are going to be giving you for graduations, birthdays, holidays, whatever, put it in the bank, just not in your pocket, and start the budget. I want to congratulate girls because girls usually get this a lot quicker than boys. And I want to encourage the sisters and the cousins and the girls that have the respect of young men out there to encourage your brothers, to encourage them not only to, if they're not going to go to college, to do trade school or something, but encourage them to save $2 out of every 10 they make. Show them how the things that you say, like, the boys, we try to save up. A lot of times we'll buy our first car, it's a bucket, we're going to put some wheels on it. But girls will go get a car note. They'll pay that $200 a month. And at the end of the year, they got great credit. So I want our boys to start learning some of those lessons too. And I'd like to ask some of the big sisters and the big cousins that are out there that the little boys respect that are 10, 12, 13, as you sign up for your Greenwood or you do banking, let's make sure our little cousins know too. A lot of my older cousins were great teachers and I'm a better man for it. And I think that with the young women that are in the crowd that are already, because our girls are doing a phenomenal job, let's make sure that these young men have an opportunity to get the game y'all given so that we can be coming up together.
Yeah, if you don't mind, just stay there a little bit more. Just talk about, just the importance of financial literacy and just wealth building, and then how that helps the individual, but also the community.
Yeah, it's going, it's like when people think rich or wealth, they think a lot of money. Rich is just living below your means, right? So I could afford a $2 million house. I live in a $500,000 house because I would rather have another 1.5 million invested, because one day when I get more gray hair and I have grandkids and all that stuff, I don't want a big old house that nobody lives in, that's already paid for, but I don't have $1.5 million opportunity for my grandchildren. Now, my grandparents were rich too. Why are my grandparents rich? Their house only cost $35,000, but they paid it off early. And then they bought a second house, and we lived in the second house, and they rented out the old house. The old house they rented out for all our lives. And the money that they made off rent of that house took us on vacation a couple of times a year. So my sisters and I got to have greater experiences, not because my grandparents were millionaires, because my grandparents were simply smart enough to say, instead of selling our old house, we'll rent our old house out. My grandparents did things like, if they could afford a car for $30,000, they'd only buy a car for $20,000. And they would take the other $10,000 and they would save that. They bought me Coke and Delta stock when I was very young, when I was in the kindergarten. The dumbest thing I've ever did besides dropping out of college was probably selling that stock while I was in college, because I wanted some money very quickly when I should have kept it in there and even bought more. So I'll give you advice like this. If you buy Nike's shoes, you should own some Nike stock. If you eat at McDonald's or American Deli, you should own some McDonald's or American Deli stock. You should take a little ownership in all the things that you like. If you drink Coke or Pepsi, then you should buy some stock in Coke or Pepsi. And when people say, well, what do you want for Christmas? I like 2 shares of Coca-Cola. And what you're going to start to do is see that over the course, because as you can see in high school, middle school to high school goes very quickly. Over the course of a few years, you're going to see little money building, and little money can turn into a lot of money once it's left alone. So I'm not going to do what the internet people do and try to charge you money to say, hey, this is what you do. But I'm going to say this Christmas, when people say what you want, tell them that you'd like them to give you some stock in Nike, Coca-Cola, Delta, just any company that you've used before or that you use a lot, and then go back and visit that stock about once a year and see how it does. The other thing is, buy a piece of land, right? Don't have children early. If you cannot have children in your 20s and just focus on yourself, your 30s will be so much more amazing. Because if you're a young person in your 20s, right, you and your friends can roommate. You can say, this rent is $1,000 a month. We'll roommate in this place and we'll spend $333 a piece. And then we'll save the other $700 we would have spent, or the other $600. And you'll save that, and you'll find, and you'll get your credit. You get a little limited credit card. Girls know about this stuff too, boys. I'm gonna tell you, girls are a lot smarter than us. You get your little credit card, about $250. And that way, when you go buy your Nikes, you'll buy it on your credit card. You'll pay it off, but it'll look like you are good about paying your stuff. Your credit will get better, and you'll be able to buy your first little house. First little house can be little, don't have to be much, but that house or that piece of property will be the cornerstone of what you're able to do. So if your cousin calls, say, man, I need to get bond out of jail, say, cousin, I can't do nothing for you right now, cousin, unless it's cousin who got a job. So cousin who got a job, you might bond him out, he'll pay you back. But you take that property, and as that property increases in value, you can take loan out against that property. You can pull equity or the money. If you paid 100 for it, it's now worth 120. You can pull 20,000. You can go buy you another property and repeat process. But what you don't have to be is dependent on the job only. That doesn't mean don't work. Get a job and work, but put something aside for yourself. And boys, if you're not going to go to college, girls, if you're not going to go to college, go to trade school. You can, in 9 to 18 months, get a trade that will bring you out on the other side of that trade, making in excess of $60,000 and $70,000 a year. If you make in excess of $60,000, $70,000 a year, then budget yourself to $30,000 or $40,000 a year, save that other $20,000, $30,000, and start to find things to invest in, whether that is stocks, whether that is real estate, whether that's a little bit of both, but find things to invest in, because by the time you get, say, 40, that's not very old, right? I'm a little old.
No, it's not old at all.
Not old at all. You don't want to have to work. Yeah. You want to choose to work because you're passionate about something and you believe in it, but you don't want to be forced to work by circumstance.
Yeah. Mike, so thank you for that. And I think you just gave some real practical advice. Now, one of the things I picked up just in these 20 minutes, you mentioned almost twice that you were a little upset at yourself for not completing college.
Yes.
But from the outside looking in, you've done pretty well. So, so talk about, you said it a few times, I see the body language. So talk about that.
It's a goal that I set for myself. I have not completed, but I'm going to complete it. Morehouse now offers online classes. I'm signing up for those online classes. I'm going to be a part of those. But it is a goal that was accomplishable by me and I quit.
Okay.
And there's no regret like quitting. There's no regret like knowing you're good enough, knowing you're intelligent enough, knowing you can accomplish it, but you're just at the time distracted or doubtful or lazy even. You know, you let circumstances get the best in you when you were the best for the circumstance. So for me, that regret has less to do with, oh, I left, I dropped out, somehow I'm not good at it. No, it's like I know I could have kicked ass. And the fact that I know a person graduated who had never read a book, I read a lot of books. I didn't have no business dropping out. You know what I mean? So for me, it's about the waking up knowing I quit something I didn't have to. You know, and as I gave my grandmother a Grammy, but I should have gave her that degree. That's all.
Okay. Understood. With so much going on right now, let's go. I guess I don't know if the activist part of the activist hat. With so much going on over in, say, Minnesota, what do you say to our students, to the young people that are watching these killings, these interactions with the police? What tips, what advice could you give our students?
First of all, everybody who has Instagram, follow the Pot Brothers. They're lawyers that happen to be marijuana advocates, but they're very adamant in how to interact with law enforcement, right? Law enforcement approaches you, remain calm, remain respectful, is what they tell you. If you're asked to present your ID, do it respectfully. If they ask you a question, I don't answer questions about my day. And then they tell you to shut the F up. Sometimes this may get you locked up. Go ahead and comply. Allow yourself to be arrested, even though that doesn't feel good. It's going to hurt. You're going to cry. It's going to make you mad. But if you don't say anything, if you don't argue, if you don't fuss fight, you stand a greater chance of coming out of that. And I just want you as a parent to make it home. But beyond that, as a citizen, I want to be able to say, look what happened to this person who was compliant. Look what happened to this person that was not giving you an issue. Look what you did. This arrest is wrong. This arrest is false. And then file a complaint. But follow the Pot Brothers because they got a lot of attitude. They say a lot of words I can't say here, but they've gotten a lot of people off cases. I'm going to tell you, my dad had been a police officer. I have two cousins that are police officers. I'm not here to defend the police department. I'm here to say, I want you to survive as young people. And my dad told me something very young that I use as a tool, as a weapon. He said, son, there's no disrespectful way to say yes, sir, and no, ma'am. He said, even if you yelling it, you yelling yes, sir, or no, ma'am. So they show that they understand that you're accepting their authority. Now, that has not always worked. But I've employed that tool more times and it's worked more than it has not, right? I've never been to jail. Even when the cop was getting on my nerve, even when I did not deserve to have my butt beat by the Red Dogs, they beat my butt. They didn't take me to jail. You know, it was wrong for them to beat up a kid, but I can honestly say I don't have a record and I survived the encounter. There's no wrong or right way to survive, but I want you to survive. Agents of the state are given the power of the state to be brutal to you. And that's wrong. And I'm working on things like ending qualified immunity. I'm working with people like Ben Cohen from Ben and Jerry's on a national level to get it changed. I'm working on a local level with the Police Athletic League with people and policemen I actually know to say, what can we do to get the police in the community to actually speak to one another so that we aren't just agents within, that the police aren't just agents within our communities that we're somehow always resisting. And I'm trying my best, but there is no magic answer. But I'll tell you this, young people, vote, hold your politicians accountable. Hold the judges accountable because you have to vote them into office. Hold the prosecutors accountable because you have to vote them into office, and get in groups and plot, plan, strategize, organize, and mobilize together. The only way that policemen keep getting away with some of the things they're getting away with is because we are unorganized. They're not more of them. They're more of us. We're just unorganized. They're better organized. Bobby Seale said that, I think, of the Black Panthers back in the days. We're not outnumbered. We're just unorganized. We're out organized. So let's do a better job of organizing. Let's do a better job of kicking political butt. As young people, you may can't vote, but you can call your city council person and you can tell them I'll be voting in the next couple of years. And if I don't start to see systemic change, we're going to vote you out. Hell, I might run against you. You are not powerless as young people. You are as empowered as any people. I became an organizer besides the BTA and cutting the rivalry with other high schools, which cut the violence. The next organization I belonged to was the Atlanta Florida Commission on Children and Youth, a group called Kids for a Change. And our first my first mission of organizing was, a lot of my homies were Crips and gangster disciples at the time. It's when they had first got to Atlanta. The MARTA policemen and them were having a beef. And it got to the point where these kids and the police were about to kill each other. It really had just gotten that ugly and violent. And we had to put the MARTA police, I'll never forget, Sergeant Shapiro was on the other side of the table from me, and he and I did most of the talking. But that sergeant, me and my Crip and my disciple homeboys, talking to him and his gang that was all in MARTA police, and we worked it out so that they became an amicable treaty between the MARTA cops at that time and these kids who were getting beat up by the cops. And I remember Shapiro saying, you know, he said, you operated like a real organizer in that moment. And I appreciate that because my homies weren't really with it. They really weren't with talking. And the police that were aside from Shapiro, they really weren't with talking either. So we avoided what could have been a war on our rail lines because kids who had guns and the will to do things with them sat at a table with cops who had guns and were willing to do things with them and made a better situation out of a bad
one. Wow. Wow. That's powerful. And you said that was that high school age?
Yeah, I was at Frederick Douglass High School. I think I was a sophomore at the time.
Wow. Okay. Okay. And so one of the things you also mentioned was systemic change. Talk about just the structural and systemic racism that's out there, things that, you know, we're trying to fix now through voting and getting the right elected officials in. Educate our kids, on our students on that, please.
Well, I mean, the system that America's built on used people who look like us as free labor to get an economic jump on the world stage and be a country. So when people say systemic racism doesn't exist, that's an absolute lie. Now, systemic racism is beatable. Booker T. Washington beat it. W.B. Du Bois beat it, right? John Wesley Dobbs in Atlanta beat it. Herman Russell beat it. Maynard Jackson beat it. You are beating it every day you educate yourself. Before, they didn't want you to vote. They didn't want you to read and write. Education was the biggest threat to white supremacy during slavery. Education is what allowed people who got freed from slavery to within 1 to 2 generations become landowners. Within 3 to 4 generations run cities like Atlanta. So educate yourself, educate yourself, educate yourself. Education is beyond what they teach you in a school classroom. It is beyond what they teach you in a college lecture a college lecture hall. It is beyond that. Education is gaining a relentless reason to say why. What, when, where, why, how. The question is the education is in the question. Is in saying to yourself, why does it operate like this? Why is racism systemic? Why do these systems exist? I'll give you the perfect example. It is alleged that our current governor in Georgia used his place as Secretary of State to steal an election. Everyone is angry about that. I don't want elections stolen. I don't want elections tampered with, right? But in everyone's anger, everyone forgot to say the same system has been in Georgia 200 years. So am I going to be madder at the man that used the system, or am I going to be mad that the systems exist for it to happen at all? Because Georgia's never had a black governor. So for 200 years, white Democrats had a stronghold on our governorship. I'm sure they use that system because, in my opinion, Andy Young should have been the first black governor. In my opinion, Stacey Abrams may very well be our first black governor, but it shouldn't take 250 years to have one. You dismantle the system and you start to fix the pathology of the system oppressing you. How do we fix the system of prison reform in America? How do we say prisons need to be reformed? Well, we can say we can make them lighter. We can bring dogs so people can pet dogs in prison. We can have conjugal visits. But why are so many more black men in prison? We commit drugs. We do drugs at the same rate of white people, about a 50-50 split. Yet there's more of us in jail for drugs. Why is this? Well, why is in the 13th Amendment? Slavery is illegal except for prison. So in America, you cannot be a slave unless you are a prisoner. So systemically, there's a build into your constitution that says you can be a slave still. Well, what do I need for slavery? I need drug laws that are unfair. Shouts out to our current president for that. You need drug laws that'll put your black butt in jail before a comparable white kid of your same age. And then we're going to give you a longer sentence. So whereas the white kid, if he does get sentenced, he gets 1 year, you get 3 years. That's 3 years free labor for you. So if you don't want slavery to continue, you don't want around just complain about every jail, you get it taken directly out of the Constitution. Let's make slavery illegal for real. And that way you take it out. That way you no longer have a systemic reason to want my black body behind bars because slavery is finally illegal. You know, If we don't start to deal with the systems, you will never stop systemic slavery. If you only deal with incidents, you are dealing with incidentals. And incidentals are always an afterthought. They what they tell you owe at the end of a hotel stay. This is what you owe for incidentals. Some we weren't even thinking about. I'm tired of being an afterthought. So for the young people out there, I would like for you to plot, plan, strategize, organize, and mobilize a new way, a new system, so that people my age can be supporting you in a new system. Because a lot of times, all we do is redefine the old system because it's the only thing we know. We don't even know no better. So all of us have complained and all of us looking forward to the next election and who we're going to vote in. But the system for cheating is still there. And unless we fix the system, somebody will always be able to cheat.
Wow. So can you recommend some books or even some people to follow?
Read everything. Right? If you're going to read the mythology and propaganda of Black Buying Dollar by the brother Gerard, read Walter E. Williams, who was an actual economist. God bless the dead, he just died. He was a Black conservative. But he talks about the economics from a perspective that your parents or grandparents might not have agreed with, or they may agree with, but always read both sides. You know, I don't just watch CNN, I watch Fox too. I want to see what all the white folk think. You know, read everything. Read Baldwin, read Frost, read Bukowski, read Chomsky, read Mark Twain, read Zora Neale Hurston, read August Wilson. Read. That's what read it again. Read everything. Stop reading things in a blurb and thinking that this is all. And understand everybody's what you reading ain't the absolute truth. I've read about Fred Hampton. I've read about Marcus Garvey. I've read about Elijah Muhammad. I didn't agree with everything anybody said, but I took the parts that I needed and I took them for me. And I said, well, this is what's best for Michael. So read absolutely everything. I have someone told me they didn't think I read their book because I didn't agree with their book. A Black man. I say, brother, I read Mein Kampf and I'm not a Nazi. I've read the Marxist. I've read Karl Marx, but I'm not a communist. You understand what I'm saying? But I'll read anything. I'll give it a read. I'll give it a try because I want to see what other perspectives are. So I'm going to tell kids anything you are curious about. Take your butt to YouTube and watch it. Go to the library and take an hour and read up on it. But the education is not in the book. It is in the question. Why? How? What? When? Where? That's where your education. Never let yourself stop questioning. You know, I was using a little kid, you'll be asking grown people, why, how? They say, hush, go somewhere, boy. Go somewhere, girl. Keep that little kid alive in your head. No matter how old you get, keep that kid alive because that is truly education. The want to know more is what you should be aspiring for. Not just to know more, because eventually you'll find a book that agree with everything you agree. You say, this is absolutely it. And for those that say, well, I've never seen a book, you read the Bible, you read the Quran, you read the Torah. You have to challenge all that. And the only way you do that is to simply keep saying why, how, what, where, when, So read everything.
Curiosity. Curiosity. I can't wait to show this to my 14-year-old son. I talk to him about reading all the time. And he just wants to roll his eyes until I take the device away. So I can't wait to show this.
But I'll tell you, in effect, when me and my daughter, my 14-year-old daughter, we're about to read 1984 together. So okay. I buy her, I get one, and then we'll just do 10 to 20 pages a day with one another. Her mom does that with her too.
Yeah, no, and that's great. I've done that where I've had to get 2 copies, go back and forth, or I've done things even as a household together. Exactly. And then we come back. But
my grandparents would turn off the television and we would it'd be like 6, 7, 8 kids in the house and everybody just have a book. And there you go, a book. Right. And the kids who didn't want to read, you'd have to do a jigsaw puzzle or crossword puzzles. My grandmother was adamant about you're going to use that brain. Like God gave you a brain, you got to use it. You got to use it.
Yeah, no, that's great. And so just talk about the importance of, from your perspective, family, friends, mentors. You mentioned it throughout our time so far, the impact of your grandparents, the different mentors that just sowed seeds in you. And it sounds like you even stay in contact with some of them.
And I do friendship circles. I'm going to tell young people before I get into mentorship with old people and how your parents and grandparents might be right. Man, I thought my parents and grandparents was crazy too. Time proved them right? Time made me say, Well, my granddaddy told me, he used to tell me all the time, color folk don't show you. He would say, I get all highlight, Granddad, we got to go out and vote. I was thinking it was like Walter Mondale going for president. My granddad like, boy, Walter Mondale ain't finna beat Ronald Reagan, boy. I will say the greatest factor in my success has been the circle of friends. I had friends that, although we were going radically different paths, we encouraged one another. One of my friends is now a college basketball coach. He just left coaching and started foundation. His name is Cameron Dollar. His father was one of the most successful high school coaches in Georgia ever, Donald Dollar. His brother went on, I think, to play for Georgia Tech. Cam went on to play for UCLA and won a national championship in 1995. Our other friend who was in our same class was Robert Hicks, one of my best friends to this day, 40 years of friendship. Robert went on to play for the Buffalo Bills. He now teaches and coaches. My other friend, Stanley Pritchard, whose mother taught us, went on to play for the Miami Dolphins and Atlanta Falcons. He now is head of coaching at Frederick Douglass High School, our alma mater. Chief Judge Asha Jackson and DeKalb County, who started a program that the state is picking up to help do criminal reform versus locking people up. Asha Jackson told us she was going to be a judge when she was 12 years old. If it were not for the quality of friends, and those are just a few, that's not even talking about from Ben Normans to Jelani's, Raheem Biya, who was my neighbor 2 doors down, just got named the head of one of the departments at Georgia Tech. All these were Black kids. All these were Black kids who grew up in a Black neighborhood and went to Black schools named for Black people. You know what I'm saying? So my friends, there was never a ceiling. My friends, by the time we got to 10th grade, Asha was like, y'all took y'all SATs yet? We're like, Asha, we in the 10th grade. She was like, you take your practice SATs now, then you take them in the 11th, and you learn some more, you take them in the 12th. Asha took school seriously. So guess who was talented and smart, but was an artist who didn't take it always seriously? Guess who was calling his line every day? Asha. Asha still calls me, Judge Asha Jackson, Chief Judge in DeKalb County. Michael, what are we going to do to get our people out to vote? So I would say, look at your friends who are around you now. Even my friends who was into the doing the crazy stuff, like my man Sleepy, who's on my TV show with me. Sleep say, fat boy, you going to go to school. I see you after school. I had friends who were encouragers. If your friends are not encouragers, you may need other friends. You don't need to get rid of them, but you might need to not be around them as much. And regardless of what the adults think in your life, make sure your friends have encouraging words to say. And then find adults who are willing to teach you. All right, you might have to do some work. You might have to cut some grass. You might have to listen to a long speech you don't want to, but who are willing to teach you what you want to know and offer yourself to them. My grandmother, for like 6 straight weeks, she had contractors come. She had the electrician come. She had the plumber come. She had the flooring guy come. She had my cousin who actually owned the auto mechanic shop come. And all of them brought me back to her door after about 1 or 2 days. Her now said, well, Betty, he's smart, but the boy ain't much for hard work. Now, they say, my uncle who was autistic, he could build my whole house. You know what I mean? He can't count his money at the end of the day because my uncle has issues. They used to trick my uncle, but he is intelligent enough to build a house. I have read every book in our house. I couldn't build a table. So in matters of building a table, my uncle's much more intelligent than me. You understand? Right. So all of that to say, I understood that the mentorship that I needed was not necessarily the one that worked for my uncle. For my uncle working with the tradesmen and stuff worked, my uncle is still to this day, still eating, still surviving, still working, still thriving off what my grandmother realized I needed a different type of mentor. So when I met Alice Johnson, when I met Edward Johnson, when these people who mentored me on organizing, that's who she pushed me to be with. Have you seen Alice this week? You need to go help her. So when you're looking for mentors, be prepared to offer your services. Be prepared to say, how can I help you? Because in helping is how you learn. Even though I can't build a whole house, I can help my uncle lay a floor. Even though I can't wire your whole house, I could wire a lamp. So even in the 2 days of work that I did do, they realized I really wasn't a hard worker. I walked away learning something. So that's what I'd encourage you guys to do.
Yeah, that's very good. And there's mentors all over the place. And for our students, sometimes you just have to step up. You have to open up your mouth.
Yeah,
you just have to approach someone.
You got to say, I want some mentorship.
You'll be surprised who will show up.
Yeah,
definitely. Oh boy. So what's next? What's next for you?
Well, I don't know. I know I'm plotting out some stuff. I'm planning. I'm in the process of finishing an album. I'm in the process of Greenwood as a banking platform is going to roll out this summer. I'm also in the process of just trying to do the right things with my money. I'm in the real estate, so I buy houses, fix them up, make them affordable homes for people. And I'm just trying to be the best Michael I can be, lose some more weight, lift some more weight. You know what I mean? Just be around and hopefully get to see you guys in person past this pandemic and just keep helping in the community for however I can.
Very good, very good. Again, so thank you. So any last words of encouragement, anything else for the students you want to share?
Kids, you can, you must, you will. You are absolutely everything you need to be. No matter what you are missing now, you are enough. You are worthy. I love and respect you immensely. You're not the leaders of the future. You're absolutely the leaders of the right now. Your leadership is needed now. You are valuable now. Your mind matters now. Your opinion matters now. You can change the world NOW now. That's it.
Wow, thank you. That's how you close. I don't even have anything else to say. So thank you so much, Skiller Mike. We really appreciate you. And hopefully we can definitely see you on the other side of this pandemic.
Absolutely. Love and respect. Y'all be well.